For years, NHL fans complained about a growing issue in the league. An expansion team that ignored all the traditional rules and somehow became a perennial contender almost overnight. Some called it innovative, others called it unfair. Either way, most fans agreed on one thing: the NHL had a Vegas problem. But as shocking as that may have been, the league is now facing something even more unnerving, because that problem just got a name: Mitch Marner. His arrival in Las Vegas isn't just another splashy headline or another predictable superstar trade. It's the kind of move that potentially shifts the balance of an entire league and pushes an already dangerous franchise into a completely different category. For anyone paying attention, it's becoming clear that this isn't just a Vegas problem anymore. This might be the beginning of the NHL's first, and possibly unstoppable, Marner problem, and it's only going to fuel the growing hate for a team that most people already wanted to crumble. Mitch Marner isn't just a great forward, he's one of the rare all-situations players that completely change the rhythm and identity of any lineup he joins. In Toronto, he wasn't simply collecting points, he was driving entire phases of play, dictating how defenders reacted, and forcing teams to change their entire defensive structure. Ever since he came into the NHL in 2016, he's generated more primary assists than almost any other player in that span. The bulk of his production came from direct game-changing plays rather than secondary involvement. It's why he became the fastest Maple Leaf ever to hit 600 points, surpassing legendary names the franchise has celebrated for decades. His 332 primary assists over the last 8 seasons rank him 4th in the entire NHL, just behind names like Nikita Kucherov and Nathan MacKinnon, and his 102-point season last year proved it wasn't just a Toronto-based hype machine. But what makes him even more dangerous is his ability on both special teams units. Very few star forwards play top unit power play, kill penalties effectively, log top pair minutes, and still generate elite 5-on-5 numbers. Marner does exactly that. He ranked in the top 15% league-wide for total skating distance last year, meaning he's not just hovering around high-danger areas, he's involved in every single part of the game. That kind of engine completely shifts the identity of a roster. Now place that on a roster that already had the offensive depth and structure of the Vegas Golden Knights, and suddenly the league's most creative playmaker is stepping into the most systematically sound lineup in hockey. This isn't just an upgrade, it's an entirely new operating system. Jack Eichel is already one of the most dynamic players in the league, and last year was living proof. He produced at over a point per game pace, while also ranking in the top 20% of all players for on-ice scoring chances created, and generated 56 shots from the highest danger scoring zones on the ice. Of those 56 chances, he converted 12 goals, which puts him in the top 19% for finishing rate among all NHL forwards. The thing is, Eichel generated all of that without having an elite playmaking partner beside him. He often had to skate the puck up the ice himself, draw defenders out of position, and then find the trailer. With Marner, that dynamic changes completely. Suddenly, defenders aren't just worried about Eichel entering the zone. They have to choose between collapsing on Eichel's rush or stretching out to contain Marner's passing lanes. And both options create enormous gaps in coverage. This means Eichel will get better looks from better areas and with more time. And when Eichel gets time, his shot usually finds its way past the goaltender. Even more terrifying, Marner tends to drag defenders away from shooting lanes, meaning Eichel's lethal wrist shot and one-timer get set up in open ice. For the first time in his NHL career, Eichel will be playing with a pass-first elite playmaker who actually generates gravity, and gravity often leads to goals, lots of them. Now combine those two elements and add Dorofeyev into the mix. The 24-year-old speedster had a breakout season last year with 35 goals and has quickly become one of the most underrated finishers in the league. His ability to burn defenders with speed and arrive in soft ice makes him the perfect complement to two ultra-creative playmakers. Put simply, the Marner-Eichel-Dorofeyev line is something that shouldn't logically exist in a salary-capped sports league. Two elite creators, both capable of drawing coverage and controlling games in transition, paired with a relentless finisher who thrives on quick release chances from high danger areas. You cannot double cover Marner without leaving Eichel exposed. You cannot focus on Eichel without leaving Dorofeyev behind your defensive structure. And if you try to shadow the winger, Eichel is more than capable of slicing through the middle alone. It's the type of top line that forces other teams to abandon their preferred matchups and defensive systems just to stay alive. It's also why coaches hate playing against Vegas, because the game becomes reactive rather than proactive. You stop trying to win and start trying to survive. And this is only line 1. If it ended there, most fan bases would be annoyed, but it doesn't end there. The second line features Tomas Hertl, Mark Stone, and Ivan Barbashev. Hertl's puck protection and goal-scoring instincts make him a nightmare to handle below the hash marks. Stone is still one of the smartest two-way forwards in the NHL and arguably the best defensive winger of his generation. Barbashev adds both physicality and finishing touch and has proven he can score big goals in big moments. On most teams in the league, this line would be considered their top line. In Vegas, it's the second wave of pressure. Even the middle six is stacked with veterans like William Karlsson, Brandon Saad, and Riley Smith. Players who know how to win, who accept their roles, and who never try to do too much. They aren't just filling spots, they're actively overwhelming opponents who thought they finally caught a break by getting away from the top unit. By the time a team figures out how to handle one matchup, the next one is already on the ice, presenting a completely different set of problems. There's no weakness to target, no safe shift where you can reset. The depth simply doesn't allow it. Before Marner arrived, the NHL already had a major problem on its hands. Expansion teams are supposed to spend years building a foundation. Vegas walked into the league and went 51-24-7 in their first season, racking up 109 points and going all the way to the Stanley Cup final. What started as one of the greatest Cinderella stories in hockey history quickly turned into something much less romantic. Fans realized Vegas wasn't going away. They found every possible loophole in the salary cap and turned it into an art form. They made blockbuster trades that felt unfair and moved on from fan favorites whenever it gave them the slightest edge. They became the ultimate win-now franchise, and it worked. Every year they brought in another star. Every year they made another playoff push. Other fan bases started to call them the NHL's cheat code. And whether it was the cap gymnastics or just the fact that they were instantly good, most of the league developed a very specific kind of hatred toward them. The same type we've seen directed toward dynasties like the Patriots, Yankees, and Warriors. Vegas never asked to be the villain, but they became one anyway. And now that villain just added Mitch Marner. It's not just the fact that Marner is elite, it's that he's polarizing. In Toronto, fans constantly debated whether he was overrated, overpaid, or unfairly criticized. Some loved him, some wanted him gone, but almost everyone had an opinion about him. That kind of energy doesn't just disappear once he puts on a new jersey. If anything, it gets amplified when he joins the reigning Stanley Cup champions, and immediately makes them better. Across the NHL, fans who were already exhausted with Vegas now have a whole new reason to hate them. A player who was already a lightning rod in the biggest hockey market in the world has now joined the most controversial franchise in the league. That's the perfect recipe for widespread resentment. Other teams don't want to see Marner's creativity flourish in Vegas. They don't want to watch Eichel and Marner dismantle their favorite team on national television. They don't want another NHL dynasty, and that's exactly what this might become. Odds makers already have Vegas tied with Edmonton for the fourth best odds to win the Stanley Cup this season, but those numbers were calculated before the full impact of the Marner trade could even be measured. Analysts around the league have already started using phrases like new ceiling and historically deep lineup when describing Vegas heading into next season, and they're not exaggerating. If Eichel continues to trend upward and Marner integrates the way most expect him to, Vegas could realistically roll out two top 10 lines in the entire NHL and still have a third line capable of winning the shot share battle. Add in a proven coaching staff, an established defensive structure, and a locker room that's already used to winning, and you're looking at the kind of team that doesn't just contend, it dominates for years. The NHL may not want another dynasty, but sometimes dynasties form whether we like it or not. So maybe this used to be a Vegas problem. Maybe it used to be something the rest of the league could complain about while hoping for an eventual downfall. But now it's different, because now the NHL's biggest problem has a face and a name. It's Mitch Marner. His arrival didn't just make an already great team better. It may have opened the door to something the league hasn't seen in decades. A franchise that wins so consistently and with such overwhelming talent that the rest of the NHL has no choice but to watch it happen. The real question isn't whether Vegas is good, it's whether anyone can actually stop the Marner-led Golden Knights before it's already too late. Drop a comment and hit subscribe. Let's see how many of us believe the rest of the league still has a chance.